If you got your Kershaw Livewire dirty in the field, or at least extremely wet, you may want to disassemble, dry, and lubricate this complex mechanism. Begin disassembly by removing the pocket clip. For that, you need a T6 driver bit. There was no Loctite on any of the screws in the example that I am disassembling. That made my life a lot easier. However, I am not sure how it will hold up in the long run. If you watched the video of the severe torture tests that I subjected this knife to, you will know it's a pretty tough little knife. Unfortunately, while the industry is predominantly switching to the T8 hardware, Kershaw chose to use T6. There are 7 screws in the construction of this knife, 2 for the clip and 5 hold the rest of the knife together. Those 5 are slightly longer, so keep them separately. Remove the 5 screws that attach the front cover. At this point, you can remove the firing lever. By pressing down on it, it'll come right out. It has a anti-rattle spring installed in the middle hole. The spring is equipped with a white plastic or nylon plunger. Remove the plunger, and if you need to, remove the spring as well. At this point, you can lift the front cover. The 2 halves of the knife fit together snugly. That's why I end up holding the back cover down with a pair of tweezers while lifting up on the front cover. Pause and admire the beautiful machining that Kershaw shop did on this knife. It's just incredibly well machined, and I'm a former CNC machinist. Unlike Microtechs and Benchmates that I disassembled, this knife is designed to be maintained by the owner. You can now lift up the main spring assembly. Here too, the design is steps ahead of competition. Remove the blade knob by simply lifting it up. You can now slide the blade out. Examine the inner works to make absolutely sure you have to remove the locking gates. Don't do it unless you have to. But if you do, be very mindful of the little springs that are assembled in there. They are conical, made out of extremely thin spring wire, and if you lose them, they will be impossible to replace. Actually, I have to say that out of a half a dozen or so of out-the-front automatic knives that I've disassembled, Kershaw machined really good retaining features for all of the components as compared to Microtech, Benchmade, and Hogue. But because the parts are fitted so tightly, you will have to use the tweezers. The tap on the mat method that you used on your Microtech disassemblies will simply not work. What I am admiring here is how the wider end of the spring fits into the detent. The fact that they fitted this spring to the detent hole is evidence of really good design practices. Examine the main spring assembly to see if you need to disassemble it any farther. It's pretty straightforward. You just pull on one end, slide the tabs out of the slots, and here you have it. The frame of the main spring will only fit back into the knife one way. I didn't show it here, but you can also disconnect the springs from the end tabs. And unlike other brands, Kershaw put loops on the spring and hooks on the tabs, making life a lot easier. More about it later. Maintenance, cleanup, it's all pretty straightforward. There are no tricks to it. Just wipe off old lubricant and residue from all metal parts. Well, they're all metal parts. And You know, if you feel like you need to dry it, add alcohol solution. There are several surfaces that come in contact with other components. Those surfaces need a light coat of gun oil. I find it to be the best in order to function properly. Start reassembly by placing the conical spring into the detent on the locking gate plate. This step requires absolute concentration, some dexterity, and patience. Notice the plate's orientation. The side with a cutout goes upward into the frame. Installing the rear locking gate is just a little bit easier than installing the front one due to how the frame is shaped around that area. My fingertips aren't sensitive enough to pre-compress the spring and then install it all together. So I place it into the slot and then compress the spring with my tweezers. And I am deliberately showing you how much fiddling was required to install this plate. The spring will come off. You absolutely have to keep track of it, because if you lose it, it will be nearly impossible to replace. So place the plate with the spring protruding into the slot and then compress the spring, allowing it to drop in. Make sure that the upper edge of the plate is in complete flush alignment with the elements of the frame. Here's a closer look. As you can see, the protruding portion of the edge is lined up with the main spring frame slide, and the lower portion of the plate is lined up with a blade rail surface. Rotate the frame so that the front lock gate slot is closest to you, and repeat the same steps. I'm going to leave the footage here uncut so that you can understand what's involved, that it is difficult and tedious, yet it's not impossible to do this step. What's making installing the front lock gate plate more difficult than the rear one is the fact that the frame steps down that little fence that kept the spring in. On the other side, it's partially cut off to allow for the firing lever to fit in. So that little corner here catches the spring just so that it starts bending, and really can't stress it enough. Do not force the spring in. If you bend it again, you will ruin the entire knife, because it may take you weeks before you get a new spring. Let me put it this way to you. If you did not have patience to watch me go through this process, you'll probably mess up your spring, because you will get impatient, try to force things in, and you will either lose or bend the spring, turning this wonderful piece of engineering, machining, and assembly into a useless paperweight. What you don't see on camera, I'm leaning my torso against the edge of the bench. So if the spring does pop out, it will hit me, hopefully, in the chest and fall back onto the bench. So as you can see from both front and rear installations, the best approach is to use the butt end of your tweezers to compress the spring. Or if you're dexterous enough, maybe your fingers. And then you have to check the gate for operation, and also make sure that the surfaces, the step surfaces, align with the main spring rail and the blade rail. Time to install the blade. make sure that the edge of the blade points away from the firing lever slot. It has to be on the opposite side. Lube the butt end of the blade, the tang. I just spread it here with my finger, light coat. And then simply slide the blade into the frame. You need to get the front locking gate out of the way for it to slide in. Grab that blade knob and place it into the central hole. Well, it's the only hole it will go into. Make sure the blade is riding freely. And now let's take a look at the mainspring assembly. And as the spring decided to pop out of the tab, I might as well take it all apart and show you a step-by-step reassembly of the mainspring. So these tabs have sub-tabs right there, little ends here, that engage the slot on the frame plate right here. This is genius because other knives don't do that. This makes your reassembly process extremely simplified. And spring to the end tab engagement is a simple loop and hook, except Kershaw folks put the hook on the solid metal and the loop on the spring, which makes it very easy as compared to, say, Benchmade Shootout and some other knives that I disassembled, where the loop is on the solid metal plate and the hook is on the spring, requiring you to rotate the spring a certain way to engage them. Here is a straightforward process. Now, don't forget to lube the mainspring frame. You will be clearly able to see the engagement areas. You can just lube them there, or eventually end up spreading it all around because a lot of these surfaces engage other components, other places on the knife. So light coat of oil, just finger greasy kind of level. Then engage one end, making sure that those little sub tabs fit into the slot, and then stretch the other end. Again, I'm doing it here for the first time, so forgive me a little fumbling. And it will go and engage those tabs with the plate. Okay, and that's done. And from there, everything is very straightforward. You just place it into the frame, just so that you know, the only thing to mind here is that tab is ahead of the blade knob. Otherwise, it won't be able to engage. But you wouldn't be able to assemble it that way anyhow. So here it is, just sitting there. And now you need to reassemble the firing lever. I put a dab of oil where the spring goes. I don't know if it's a required step or not. You decide. I like that it sort of contains a little bit of oil, makes everything run smoothly. I put a spring in first and then grab that little mushroom shape spring tab. It's really a linear bearing of some sort, the proper term most likely is, because what it does, it compresses a spring while allowing the firing lever to slide back and forth. And it's hard to tell how fast this thing will wear out because it engages a pretty roughly finished anodized aluminum surface there, but that's how it works. And so here it is. You can let go of the lever for a minute. I'm checking to see if I need to lube anything. There's no evidence of springs touching or anything engaging the surface. I'm just doing out of abundance of caution. And obviously you need to lube the inside of the firing lever slot, and just in case, both surfaces. The firing lever has a cutout that engages a protrusion on the mainspring frame, which drives the frame back and forth right here. Last quick check here, make sure that the mainspring frame is not on top of the locking gate plate. My left hand here applies the pressure toward the frame onto the firing lever while I'm placing the front cover onto the frame. And now we're ready to reinstall T6 screws. Remember, the torque required for T6s is minimal. It's like 8 to 10 inch-pounds, which is very, very little torque. I do go in a crisscross pattern here, but I do not exceed a very light, just a step beyond hand tight. That's how it should feel. And while you watch me do it at 2x speed, let's go over some features we discovered inside this knife. First and foremost, this knife is designed with maintainability in mind. Whether they planned it for your convenience or just making their warranty support easier, the design is brilliant. They took all the common elements that you see in many OTFs out there, and yet somehow they polished and improved the design to such extent that reassembly was pretty straightforward. Alright, so the knife is back together and it's time to test our handy job. Pull it out, operate the firing lever a few times, enjoy the action. Make sure it fires slow and fast. And you're pretty much done. All that's left to do is put the pocket clip on, and I will permit myself to hate on that pocket clip again. It's so small and narrowly spaced that it doesn't really work with work pants or jeans really well. And I have a video showing me trying to extract it out of a pocket of basically normal work pants. Not a big fan. There is a silver lining to this design though. If in the field your knife is wet on the inside, or there's some kind of sand or other debris that got sucked into the mechanism that impedes the function of the knife, you can remove the clip and blow through these holes. They are not blind, they go all the way through the rear wall of the frame, and you should be able to blow some particles out of the mechanism, or at least shift them enough so that the knife operates smoother. I'm not sure how realistic this would be in the real world, because you don't always carry a T6 driver with you, but in theory this should work. At any rate, if I dropped the knife into the water somehow, like I did in my test video, I would at a minimum, soak the knife in rubbing alcohol, remove the clip, and then blow through these holes to dry it before I disassemble the knife.